Okay, so without further ado, let's jump right in there because we have to get started. We have just an hour and a very hot topic to cover. So first of all, folks, thank you very much for giving up part of your Thursday and joining. It is exciting times, needless to say. And I tell you, I have moderated many sessions in the past, definitely quite a few of them during the pandemic. But, every topic from blockchain to cryptocurrency, I could plan for that. But this topic, AI, I mean, you cannot plan for this. Every time you think, you're going to cover this, something new is coming, and it's coming at us fast and furious. So this is a very interesting topic, exciting times, and we will jump into the heart of this discussion in just a minute. But before we get going, I have asked Aradhana is also known as Anna, to take a couple minutes and talk a little bit about the Hunger Mitao movement that the Indian American community is addressing. Just take a minute to talk about that, the impact it has, and why it is needed. And then she will also set the ground rules. And with that, we'll jump right into our topic, our panelists on standby. So with that, Anna, take it away.
Sounds great. Thank you, Raj. So Hunger Mitao, folks, is a grassroots volunteer movement that is galvanizing and mobilizing the Indian American community to fight hunger in the USA. Yes, there's hunger in the USA, by supporting their local food banks. In the 6 years since its inception, Hunger Mitao has helped enable more than 56 million meals for the Feeding America network of food banks. Feeding America estimates that more than 40 million people in the USA are food challenged. Food banks today are feeding more people than they did during the height of the pandemic. I'm not saying this just to shock you, but you can imagine inflation, stagnant wages, ending of the emergency government programs are all contributing factors. If you want to learn more about Hunger Mitao, or if you want to get involved, please put your name and Hunger Mitao next to it in the, I guess, Q&A box, because chat doesn't seem to be working. But please put your name and Hunger Mitao there, and we will connect with you. So now for some ground rules, very few. Everyone will be muted except for the speakers. This session will be recorded, and we encourage you to be active in the Q&A box. And we will make sure your questions are answered, and please post your observations as well. With that, I turn the session over to Raj.
Thank you, Anna. Everyone can hear me okay? Thumbs up? All right, great. So folks, we are very excited that on this emerging, I cannot even say emerging, this happening topic of generative AI, we have two outstanding speakers right here from the Dallas area who have agreed to join in, and they are going to give us perspectives from the Gen AI, from a lab and technology and all the new gizmos that are happening to create the next generation of AI, and how it's going from reactive to predictive, etc. So we have Dr. Gopal Gupta, and I really don't want to take too much of our time, giving long introduction, because we have a short 1 hour. So I highly encourage friends that please go visit their LinkedIn profile. These are accomplished folks. Their resume itself will take good 15-20 minutes. But needless to say, I just want to introduce Gopal by saying that he's a professor of computer science at the University of Texas at Dallas, and he's the co-director of its Center for Applied AI and Machine Learning. From 2009 to 2020, he served as head of the CS department at UT Dallas. His areas of research interests are in automated reasoning, explainable machine learning, computational logic, and AI. Gopal, excited to have you on this panel.
Great to be here. Yeah, thank you.
Thank you very much. And I want to share one thing, Gopal. I actually had the opportunity to hear you on a few other webinars, and I was blown away with your knowledge. So we're excited to hear from you, and especially right now when things are happening so fast.
So fast, yeah, indeed.
Excellent. And our other speaker is my good friend Deepak Seth. He's a candidate for leadership role. I think if any of you is looking for transforming your organization, tap him on his shoulder. I mean, he currently is with Charles Schwab as the product director. His earlier roles, he was with Accenture and Xerox. He has led AI and ML innovation initiatives, strategy roadmap formulation, highly relevant skills in data science and artificial intelligence. He's recognized as a top 25 thought leader by AI and ML by Thinkers 360. So we have, and one of the things that Deepak brings is from a business perspective, how all of this AI thing is changing our business world and the way, even at a personal level. So we will get the lab perspective, the how AI is changing and evolving and revolutionizing, and then we'll talk about how it is changing our world around us. So with that, I am going to pose the very first question. Now, the theme of today's session was generative AI yesterday, today, and tomorrow, right? It was just a year ago, Gopal and Deepak, that generative AI was unleashed a little over a year ago. Now, a lot of people say that AI has always been around, right? But generative AI is not the same AI that they are talking about. So I wanted to get a perspective, Gopal. Maybe you can help us set the stage here, that shed some light on what is different in the generative AI and how just a year ago this thing just kind of took over the world, and in this 1 year everybody's talking about AI, but not too many people understand how it came about, why it was a year ago that it really was unleashed. So over to you, Gopal.
Okay.
If you could.
All right, excellent question. So as we all know, AI has of course been around. I mean, the first attempt at building something that was intelligent, a program that could do something intelligent, was in 1958. And those of you who are familiar with exposure to AI, familiar with Lisp, right? Yeah. Lisp was typically used for developing AI programs. And that was actually designed in 1958 as well. So it's a long time since, AI has been around. So the question is, okay, what is generative AI and what is different this time? So I would say that the big difference is the availability of data and the increase in computing power through GPUs. And, you see the NVIDIA stock, right, skyrocketing. And there's a good reason for that. And improved algorithms, although the algorithms for deep learning, neural nets have been around, in fact, also since maybe the 60s. So what does generative AI, how does it, fit into the spectrum of AI techniques that have been around that we know, that we already know? So think of generative AI in this way. So as you know, how large language models work, right? Or even tools like systems like DALL-E 2, or how do those work? So the idea is that they will predict the next word, right? The next word based on some statistical pattern. So how does that fit into the old paradigm of AI? So if you think about AI or even intelligent behavior, then essentially any kind of intelligence involves some kind of search, right? You have a problem to solve, and there is this big space of solutions, and you do some kind of search through the space. You might hit a dead end, and then you backtrack and you find the right solution. So there's all kinds of search algorithms that were designed in the past. Especially if you took a course in AI, you probably studied them: A*, min-max search, all kinds of search, depth first, breadth first. So but the problem with these algorithms is that searching can take a long time. As your problems become more and more complex, search will take longer. So with the advent of deep learning and this powerful hardware, essentially we now have access to a new technique for search, which is essentially I would call example-driven search. So the idea is that instead of using some kind of heuristic to sort of navigate your search space to find a solution, what you do is you say, I'm going to look at these millions of examples and calculate my next move in the search by looking at these examples. So you essentially look at all these examples. So in the case of large language models, it's large amount of text, and you basically process it to figure out what word, given a set of words, what would be the next word. So you build this probability distribution, and then when you do the search for generating, based on a prompt for generating a text or document or passage or whatever, what you want to write a poem or whatever based on the prompt, then what you do essentially is you predict the next word based on this large number of the probability distribution that you have built using your examples. And that seems to work really well. So essentially, you could call it a new search paradigm in AI, where the examples, millions, billions of examples drive your search. So and the beauty of it is that you can do it extremely efficiently. And that's why I think it's such a sensation, because, it can, as you can see, it can do things that are quite amazing, right? That says, well, write a letter, with some, these are the points I want to make, or write a poem. But at the end of the day, it's really is a very smart way of searching based on examples. And that's why I think everybody's excited. Now, I should add that generative AI has been around for 4 or 5 years. The BERT system by Google was actually developed 2017, 2018. But ChatGPT put it in the question answer format, and that basically took the world by storm. So exactly, I think almost a year ago, November 30th. So I'll stop here. So hopefully, you're able to connect to what you learned, when you took the AI course or got exposed to AI, that essentially still search, but it's a smarter way of doing search based on examples.
No, I think this is fantastic, Gopal, because you really have kind of simplified a very complicated topic. Because by saying that, end of the day, our traditional way of searching, right, it is now done at a much more macro level because of, number one, computing power. That's why NVIDIA stock is taking off like crazy.
Right.
Because in the past, that idea may have been there, but we did not have the computing power.
That's right. We didn't have the computing power.
Today
Correct.
we have computing power that can take massive amount of data sets in the large language model, right, and do the search so much more faster that it looks like, wow, this is just crazy. Why didn't you do this before? But the computing power really helped out.
Right. And also this vector representation and some of those things are also advancements that have been made.
Excellent.
So today, if you want to build an AI algorithm, I would say collect large number of examples, and then use these examples to guide your search. So now there is no backtracking. You basically get the next step that you should take in your search. You're almost certain that this is what you should do. And that also leads to all the problems of hallucinations, and because sometimes your guess is wrong. But once you make the guess, you got to stick with it. There's no backtracking, no going back.
Great. Fantastic, Gopal. That was a great way to give us a little bit more, technical, but also the fact that, how did we get here? But now, Deepak, same question, tell us a little bit about, since ChatGPT and generative AI has become part of our communication, and I should say not just part of communication, we are using it. We are using it quite extensively now, right? Across, those who are not using are falling behind. So tell us, how has it changed our personal lives? How has it changed the business world? How is it transforming industries in the last 1 year since ChatGPT has been on the scene?
Great. Thanks for having me on the panel, Raj. Really appreciate that. Means to start off, I would say, abhi to kahani shuru hui hai. The story is just about getting started. And before I speak about how it has helped in us in the last 1 year, I think as Professor Gupta was saying about the large language model, but if we look at the way we learn as when we are growing up as kids, means basically we learn through visual inputs before even language takes place. So the next paradigm which is going to happen in this space is around not the large language models, but would be large vision models, which are trained using images, and then they can be very industry specific. So that's why I said abhi to kahani shuru hui hai, because this is going to get even much more powerful. So now
jumping ahead, I'm going to talk about Gemini a little bit later, but yeah.
This is not, Gemini is not a large vision model per se. I think companies are working on large vision models, but Gemini is a multimodal method, but yeah, but maybe it has vision also. But yeah, coming to your question, I wanted to take a look ahead and then come back and take a look at the back. So since ChatGPT has been around, means as we said, generative AI has been around for some time, but companies had not taken notice of it. Only like some of the bigger players may have taken notice of it. But once it became mainstream and this whole buzz started about generative AI, then maybe as the C-suite started hearing about it, then the pressure started building on CTOs and CIOs also. Hey, get your act together, figure out how this can be used. So what most companies have done is trying to figure out the use cases where generative AI could be used. And one big challenge has been the rapid, as we talked about, the rapid pace of the change. Now, companies, when you're trying to introduce a technology, you want to fix on a platform because you don't want to be changing things every day. Now, by the time the company started POCs in January or February or March, that time there was like ChatGPT 2 or 3.3, 3.5. Claude came into the picture, Bard came out, means Bard became more developed and everything kept on changing. And now suddenly now again, Gemini would come into the picture. Amazon has come out with Bedrock. So things have been in quite a flux there. But that's on the technology side. On the business side means use cases, companies have come up with use cases. Interesting ones, most of them are around the low-hanging fruit, means the best approach which companies always follow is the crawl, walk, run, fly kind of thing. And the kind of crawl use cases have all been around in the customer interaction space. Companies have a repository of information which their agents use to respond to client or customer queries. So that's a knowledge base which, if it is combined with the LLMs, can be used to respond to customer queries in a much better way. So that's a very simple use case which many companies are trying. Interestingly, before I move on the personal level, how it plays out, and it played out very interestingly even yesterday. A bunch of us had got together. As you know, we have an IIT entrepreneurship network also. And so we just got together to figure out what we want to do in 2024. And as we were brainstorming, one of us, Dr. Bene Bete, was scribbling notes on a sheet of paper. And when we ended the session, he said, now I have to go home and I'll have to transcribe them and send them out. I said, like, hey, wait a minute. I have ChatGPT on my phone. And so I took pictures of each page, said transcribe to it. It transcribed all the written scribblings into text. And then I said, combine all of them in a note about the happenings of today. And so it combined a very nice note about what actually transpired from all those individual transcribed pictures. So this gives us an example of how it generative AI can help make our lives much more efficient and can be a very effective tool as we go ahead. But I'll pause here for further questions. Yeah.
No, this is fantastic. I think you're right. I think there are so many examples out there of how businesses, industries, and individuals are pushing the envelope. I'll give a simple example just to build up on what you just said. My brother-in-law was taking a trip to Taiwan, never been there before, and he had signed up for ChatGPT 4. So he was just playing around with it. He says, I will be there for 3 days. My kids are this age group. Build me a 3-day itinerary. Mm-hmm. He was blown away. Mm-hmm. I mean, it not only build a good itinerary, keeping in mind the age group and interest, also the weather that is expected to be there while they are there. So in what sequence they should be doing it. ChatGPT did all of that. So
I'll add one more there, and when I recently spoke at with the IIT Alumni Network, it was around, I picked one software where I recorded a message in English, which was my thank you for attending the session. And then it automatically translated into a language which I don't even know, in Tamil. And it did it in my tone and accent. So it is like, it is exactly people will think that it's me speaking, but I'm speaking in Tamil. But think of the power of that technology. So if you're a company CEO and you're broadcasting a message for and a global company, you can record it in one language and then it plays in multiple languages in your own tone and accent. Means, but the flip side of it is deep fakes. But we can go to that.
Yeah, we need to talk about that also. So let's save some time for that part. But I will close on this point by simply telling all our attendees, folks, if you have not dabbled with ChatGPT 3.5, which is a free version, and then now that Gemini Pro, that's the free version, you are getting left behind. So I would highly encourage everybody, don't be afraid of this technology. Yes, there are concerns, and we will challenge our panelists to address that when I ask them to talk about the future. But at the present, I mean, the power that it gives you is phenomenal. So please dabble into it. It can do wonders for you. The biggest challenge is how to pose the right question. And even there also, it's very friendly. So I guess we addressed the past that in the 1 year, ChatGPT, generative AI has revolutionized our world, personal level, at the professional level, and in the labs, things are continuously evolving. So I'm going to now go to Gopal and say, Gopal, I mean, now let's talk about current. I mean, it seems like every day something is happening. Of course, a week ago, as you all know, that the debacle at OpenAI, where Sam Altman got fired and rehired, etc. Then we heard about this scary technology called Q-Star. And then out of nowhere yesterday, you know, when I thought I was all planned out and scheduled and I had my script ready for today's session, Gemini pops up. So you give us, Gopal, about where are we today in regards to this technology?
Okay, excellent question. So for all the, I mean, so it's a great technology. You know, if it's your, marriage anniversary and you have to compose a nice note for your spouse, hey, go to ChatGPT and, maybe you can give 2 or 3 qualities about your spouse and ask it to write a nice note. It'll do it for you. Do it better than you ever could. But keep in mind that, you've heard that, right? These systems can hallucinate. Because after all, what they're doing is they're guessing the next word, the next word, the next word. And then prompt becomes very important, right? What you tell it. So think of it as a person who pretty much knows everything, but the quality of response you're going to get is based on the question, the type of question you ask. And then, as I said, these systems can hallucinate. So it's great, for example, that it created the itinerary for Taiwan, but you will have to check still, because it's possible that it might add a place that doesn't exist, or put it in an order. Most of the time it will get it right. But if you ask it something that is not, for example, for example, Taiwan is well visited, but if it was some place that is not really that visited that much, or it might get confused. So you have to be careful when you use it. So that's the limitation, that no matter what it does, you still have to check what it has produced is correct. So that's something that, we have to be cautious about. Again, great technology. You can say, hey, give me the recipe for making a samosa. It'll give it to you. Wonderful. Then you say, well, give me that recipe as a poem. It'll give it to you as a poem. So it's really incredible what it can do. But keep in mind that it can hallucinate, and it can give you wrong information. And so it also still has limits. And I think that's where the research is going to be. Still has limits in the sense that it gets sidetracked by. So if you ask something very specific, so for example, you ask it. So I was actually in a session where I was talking to these engineers in the hospitality industry who maintain large hotels and stuff, and they wanted to acquire some skill in ChatGPT and in generative AI technology. And so we were experimenting with, for example, you had to fix an HVAC, and you give the brand name of the HVAC and say, this is the problem that this HVAC is facing, and tell me how to repair it. and it goes to the repair manuals. And basically, when you look at the details, it could not get it right because there are so many. The manual is there. There are so many, documents explaining, how to repair things, how to solve problems of various kinds. It can get confused because, again, it's just guessing the next word. So there is no intelligence in the sense of reasoning or thinking. So that's a challenge that, the community is working towards, how to make these systems reliable. So assured AI, is one of the area that everybody is working in. And then, of course, there is worry about, misuses of, deep fakes that, Deepak talked about. And so those are the challenges that we're facing today.
So I guess
I'll stop here and then, maybe add more later.
No, Ashok, but I'm sorry, Gopal, I just want to kind of talk specifically on the technology side. One of the things that was brought up during that episode that happened at OpenAI is that the board were very concerned about this new technology called Q-Star, right? And they were worried about the fact that, until now, technology or the generative AI was more in a reactionary waiting for us to ask a question and then responding. And now through the Q-Star, it can calculate math problems, etc., on its own without even being told how to go about doing it. There were different reports that we heard, and that's what led Sam Altman to get fired, and that because of politics, they got brought back in. What's happening?
So we don't know what exactly all that is. So based on what I understand, so one of the things that, so as I say every time I talk about AI, that intelligence has two components. One is learning or pattern matching, and the other one is reasoning. So these large language model tools basically work based on pattern matching and learning. They generally have no reasoning capabilities. Any reasoning capability that you see is there because somebody wrote that reasoning in text, and ChatGPT or LLMs have access to it. Now, so that's one of the weaknesses. So, for example, I mean, they have been improving the tool. So, for example, so a month ago, if you said, give me the directions from Dallas to Boston, it will give you reasonable directions, but still it will put highways that, that do not even connect, for example. But then I think it's getting better and better. But then if you ask, give me directions from Dallas to Boston via Chicago, it'll completely ignore Chicago, for example. But now I think they have made it even, either they are watching, what people are asking, they made it better. So it doesn't have the reasoning capabilities. So the roads may not connect, for example. So one thing that it always fails on is if you ask this problem, you say, John arrived at a party first, then Mary came, and then, Jane came before Mary, and then you say, John or Robert came after Mary, and maybe after Jane and before Mary, and then you ask who was the third one to arrive at the party, and it will always get it wrong because this is a reasoning problem. You really, even for a human, you have to sort of take a paper and pencil and kind of figure out who came when and then answer the question. All that LLMs can do is based on word matching, and people have solved this kind of problem, so they get matched with John, Mary, Jane, came first, came before, it gets confused. So I think what they have done is, in this Q-Star thing, is that essentially what one could do is, if it figures out that this is a problem it cannot solve,
right,
then it can generate a program where it passes this information, and then you run that program. So it knows who came after who, so you can pass all this information to this program, and and then execute this program and get the answer. So you can go to the next level where if you cannot solve a reasoning problem, you generate the program, and then have the program solve it.
Right.
So it increases the power, but keep in mind that that still, even if it is able to bring in reasoning capabilities, the best it can do is match a human's capability. You could say an unerring human's capability. So people talk about, what is it, artificial super intelligence, but that I think is very hard to achieve and maybe even impossible, because moment you bring in reasoning has, and people have done research on automated reasoning for the last 50-60 years, it has theoretical limitation as to what you can do and what you cannot do. So that's what I think all this thing was about, that maybe you can, if you can't solve a problem, you figure out the situation, just like us will say, oh, I can't solve it. I need to get piece of paper and pencil and figure this out. So you generate a program. And I think so they probably got spooked. But my opinion is that, a lot of this brouhaha is for, really amounts to nothing.
Okay.
It can become very good and maybe, even match human capabilities, but it'll be very hard for it to surpass human capability. I mean, it can surpass human capability in the sense that, you look at a crane can lift much more weight than I ever would be able to, but I'm not in awe of the crane. So the same thing here. I mean, it can do things that will be hard for me to do or, take a lot of effort, but taking control of the human race and all those things that people worry about is, I think, is a little bit, going.
That's one less thing to worry about. Well, that's great, Gopal. I just let you continue to say that because it is reassuring what you said. I like the way you explained it, that what may have happened there. I appreciate you talking about the fact that the reasoning piece is still not there in the technology. I also like the way you mentioned that what may have happened is that it does have a little bit more intelligence where it is creating its own program. Just like when I cannot figure out anything on it, I can call my kids and say, hey, help me out here. So it's just figuring out how to do that. So that's kind of great. Good to know that. And I appreciate that.
And I think sometimes these companies do these things to inflate their value. It's like, it's like Elon Musk, making promises that will bump up Tesla stock.
Exactly. Well, I tell you what, Google stock did go up quite a bit today.
Yes.
Deepak. And Deepak, let's talk today, here and now. And I like Gopal gave us a little bit insight about what may have happened at the Open AI with Q Star, etc. But from a business again and industry point of view, as you said in the beginning, that one of the biggest challenges is that what platform to be on, what platform to lock into, because things are changing. And now, yesterday we heard about Gemini. So I will give you the next 3 to 4 minutes to, however you want to talk about today, how is it impacting us? And if you want to use it all to talk about Gemini, please do so, because that's on the top of everybody's mind. So over to you, Deepak.
So yeah, I mean, so I don't know whether AI can steal anybody's thunder or not, but Gopal stole my thunder already. So and I liked his crane. My mind was going in the same direction about like, okay, things can be better. Everything we use is better than what humans can do ourselves. So technology is, once again, means the master remains the human. So we shouldn't be worried about that. So yeah, that's the great point around is like things are changing so fast. Companies, I think what they would do is they will pick a partner. So if it's an Amazon company, means if a company is comfortable with Microsoft, they'll go with Microsoft. If the company is comfortable with Google, they'll go with Google. If the company is comfortable with somebody else, they'll go with that. And then the AI, they will use whatever AI products that company comes up with. But the interesting thing means one development which is happening is, and I give an example of a car kind of thing. Means we drive a car, and when the car was invented, people would have all been caught up about the internal combustion engine, how the internal combustion engine works, blah blah blah, everything about what goes on inside the car. But if today you ask a person, okay, how did you come here? They'll say, I came by a car. But no one is going to say, I came by a device which has controlled a series of controlled explosions inside a closed cylinder with a piston drive, converting the thermodynamic energy into into motion and stuff like that. So similarly, AI also, like electricity, like cars, it will become something which is very embedded into what we do. And the way it is happening is many companies, most of these companies are embedding in AI into what they are calling a generic term, which is being used by most companies like a co-pilot. So what you're already doing using their technology, AI is getting embedded in that. So you will be able to do those things in a much better way. And some of it had already started creeping in, not with generative AI, but with other things. So you're composing a note and Google will do autocomplete. So it is completing the sentence even before you have written the sentence. Now it can go even more further, saying, okay, you're having a meeting. It will record the meeting, transcribe the meeting, create the meeting notes, calculate the gist of it. If you're doing a candidate interview, it can also judge the sentiment of the candidate, whether he was nervous or wasn't nervous, or whether if you define the rules appropriately, may even be able to identify who's the right candidate or not. So in some way, shape or form, one can say that these AI platforms will acquire a rudiment of reasoning, because ultimately reasoning is also a set of rules. And in some cases, those rules are not well quantified yet. And we whatever we are not able to describe, we human beings have tended to put it in the describing it as miraculous, or we don't know how things happen. And slowly they start defining those things. So what our gut feel is also can be defined in terms of a set of rules. And once it is defined in a set of rules, AI is much, and generative AI and its future versions will be much more adept in executing those rules than even human beings are. For example, yeah, go ahead. Go. You have a question popping in your mind, Raj?
I think this is good. And you're right. There are multiple platforms that are coming up. This will keep our consultants engaged. That's one good news there, right? So all these consulting companies, they will help us decide which one is right for your organization, your industry. But I'm just trying to figure out, because when I watched the Gemini video about the multimodal approach, and folks, again, who are listening, please go to YouTube and do a search on Gemini. I mean, it is amazing at how rapidly it is able to recognize through vision, what is being shown to it. And then, things that you ask it, like, okay, I have these two things. Like, for example, you could probably hold a potato in your hand and an onion in the other hand and say, what can I make with this? And it will come out and give you 5 recipes. And I kid you not, just like that, right? I mean, they use all kinds of examples. So I'm just trying to figure out, number one, Deepak, industry application for that, what comes to your mind? And also at a personal level, how will this change life? Because ChatGPT has already changed my life. Examples like I all my itineraries I do through ChatGPT. Anytime I write something now, as opposed to simply Word doing my spell check and grammar check, it actually helps me enhance it and get my message better, right? So all these things I'm already using it, and I'm finding it to be amazing.
So
But
great question, Raj.
How is it going to change?
So great question, Raj. And so what happens is, many times, even in companies or other places, when people are asked to think or describe the use cases, they think incrementally. So they think about, okay, we were processing 30 documents in a minute. Now we'll be able to do 45 or whatever. Or similarly, customer complaints will come down, or the time to handle complaints will improve, kind of thing. But what these technologies will do is enable a new paradigms to emerge, kind of thing. And I'll give an example. Right now, in most of the work which companies do, we have data visualization and stuff, but visualizing things in terms of images is generally not part of the way humans or companies operate. For example, if you are say a wealth advisor, and right now, if you have a client and you are describing, and they come to you about their retirement planning or something, you'll give them a set of documents and saying, you know what, this is the way. If you save this way, you can get this. If you save this way, you can get that. What if they are able to create visualizations of those scenarios very quickly as they are speaking? They say, okay, this is what, if you do this, an image suddenly pops up of a nice river with them fishing in it, and with another kind of image appears, kind of thing. And next thing could be combining it with artificial, the AR and VR kind of stuff. Maybe they start living that same experience as it is being generated, kind of thing. So that part, and I may not be doing a good job of describing it, but I'm just what I'm trying to say is, there are different dimensions of the human sensory evolution or perceptions, which will start playing a role as these technologies enable them. The first one would be two-dimensional in the sense images, just plain images instead of words. And the next could be immersive images or immersive environments being created by a combination of other technologies to help people live that experience, kind of thing.
Fantastic, fantastic. No, I think you're right. I am kind of pressed for time here. So you have answered quite a few of the questions that were posed during the registration process. You already answered that. But a couple things that I wanted to bring to the surface and ask you to reflect on it. And number one is cybersecurity. Clearly, as Gopal mentioned, and also Deepak, you also emphasized that in the wrong hands, this could be dangerous. And so what does it mean from a cybersecurity point of view for organizations? How will AI, create new challenges? And how will AI also help us address those challenges?
So it is interesting. Means AI is both. It can play a role both in cyber attacks as well as in cyber defense. So in the hands of the bad guys, means it greatly enhances their ability to mount attacks. So for example, phishing attacks. Phishing attacks are based on trying to create a profile of an individual and then directing messages to the person to elicit information from them. Now with these tools and with the information which is available to them, they will get so much more better in creating those phishing messages, and they can include deep fake information also in it. So if your mother gets a phone from somebody who sounds and looks like you, she's going to assume that it is coming from you, kind of thing. And so means that ability increases. Their ability to mount these attacks consistently in a rapid way and identifying what the potential weaknesses in a company are, because that's the way these operators operate. No, I mean, they keep pinging these messages at open ports and stuff like that, and their ability to figure out where the weak spot has improved so much. But similarly, on the cyber defense side, also the flip side of it works, means you are able to, you can create test data much more effectively to try to mimic these kind of situations which can happen. You can run testing more efficiently and across a broader spectrum. So the cyber defense also improves. And one more point, which when we were talking about the evolution of AI, means another thing is AI itself is being used to improve AI. Means and that concept comes like you're saying, no, AI gives wrong information. So you stand up two AI tools against each other. One is punished for giving bad information. The other is rewarded for giving right information, and you put them against each other. So every time this guy gives a wrong information, the other one has to detect it, and then that gets rewarded, and then the whole AI application. So this is in a very rudimentary way. This is like what GAN or means the generative adversarial networks are. Means you're posing AI against AI, and AI is getting better, kind of thing.
Great. Appreciate that, Deepak. That was great. And Gopal, how about you? What do you think?
I agree with what Deepak said. Certainly, the cyber issue is a threat issue is certainly there. It allows the bad guys to be more efficient and craft personalized messages and then the defense is also you use AI essentially to defend yourself. So I think definitely life will become interesting as this whole thing plays out over the next whatever few months, and then we have the election coming, and there'll be all kinds of techniques that people will use to influence the election one way or the other, and then we have foreign actors, and it'll become complicated. So let's see how this plays out. But certainly that's and also the other thing that people worry about is this unreliability also of AI, where you really cannot rely, you cannot be 100% sure that the answer is correct, and so whatever you do, you have to still check. And in that sense, if you look at the applications of generative AI, they have been more on the creative side. So the architects are using it for And again, similar thing, I was giving a talk to the group of architects about this, and they were telling me that they're already using these image generators. So they can say, design me a clubhouse in a golf course that looks like a medieval castle or something, and it'll give them a design. It may not be perfect, but it's an inspiration. So use of generative AI will be more on the creative side, or like you use it for fixing things or enhancing things. But I would say generally, still there isn't a strong business case where you can put it in front of a customer and say, I'm making money off of it. So I don't know if there are any business cases where you say, so people, you may use it for maybe generating stuff, as I said, but actually using it sort of as a call center agent, you put an LLM, that's still, not going to happen.
It's in the works. I think it will be out there very, 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 very soon. Like we won't even realize that the responses are coming from an LLM.
So I would come back that the challenge is still there, that these LLMs don't know how to reason unless you add the ability to reason, and that reasoning is a whole different can of worms essentially. And so one very nice use of LLMs is that use it for extracting knowledge from the text and then process it using a different program. So just like, so if you look at how we function as humans, we're not working like ChatGPT. We're not looking at a text or a prompt and immediately we start saying things. We understand the prompt, we understand the text, the knowledge resides in our mind, then we reason, and then we create the output. So until that happens, my opinion is that the business cases will stay on the creative, generative side, because you won't be able to add reliability to the output of LLMs. So that reliability question still is a big question. And in my opinion, until the reasoning part is fixed, and you could argue that if you look at evolution, then in terms of pattern matching and pattern recognition, some of nature has experimented as well. And for example, it has produced eagles can see much better than us, and dogs have much better sense of smell and sound. And apparently camels can smell water, 75 kilometers away, because there is some bacteria or something that, in the desert environment that they can, sense 75 kilometers away. So nature has done a very good job of, producing systems that can do very smart pattern matching, much better than what we can do. But it could not produce a being that is as intelligent as us just by using pattern matching. Eventually, it had to add reasoning. And as you go up the evolutionary chain, you see that reasoning capabilities improve and they culminate in us. So unless you bring in reasoning in some form, and the current LLM technology does not include reasoning because it's pattern matching essentially of text. So until you do that, it'll be very hard to essentially build systems that are reliable essentially. So that's one of the challenges that needs to be fixed. I guess you want to talk about the future. Unless that is done, in my opinion, LLMs it'll be hard to make them customer facing unless it's for a creative task, like some idea generation or image generation.
So yeah, a great point, Gopal and Raj. If I can have a quick minute here, means reasoning. A great point about reasoning, and I'll play devil's advocate a bit. So even reasoning means reasoning may be a bit overrated in the sense, and this is in the sense that even with a sense of reasoning, the two different individuals reason, and then one says vote Biden, the other says vote Trump. Means so it's not reasoning doesn't mean that you're coming up with consistent answers, or even you're able to explain your logic to the other person, because the other person is still convinced about his reasoning, and if that person tries to convince this person, they are convinced about their reasoning. So reasoning from a machine efficiency point of view, means maybe reasoning is overrated, because it's saying, what, if we need to get to an answer, reasoning is a distraction, because it is creating confusion. It is creating noise in the machine output, because you're not able to come with the ideal. So the answer cannot be both Biden and Trump. It has to be one of them. Then why is this so much reasoning being wasted between deciding this, deciding that kind of thing? So, I just picked one crude example to explain a point.
Deepak,
Yeah.
you made your point extremely well, and Gopal, you made your point extremely well, which means we'll have to have another session on this where we'll go a little bit deeper dive. In fact, I love this perspective that you both bring, which is important. But I think we are kind of running into time pressure right now. So what I would request is that there is a question that is, how can Gen AI help in tax savings? So folks, don't worry about that. We have a discussion right after this where our tax expert Ganga Raju will talk a little bit. He's better than any Gen AI put together. So hold on to that thought. But I would like to wrap up our session here by giving each of you a minute, minute and a half. Just reflect now in the future. So we covered the past. We reflected a little bit on the today. I like your perspectives of reasoning, and the fact that how reasoning could be subjective as we look at it from today's perspective. But let's say a year from now, we are here doing our next webinar, or the third or fourth webinar, whatever, on this topic. Where do you see this whole Gen AI evolving by 2024 December? And I'm not looking at 3 years, 5 years down the road, just 1 year, because this last 1 year has been revolutionary. What will happen in 1 year? Can you just take a wild guess from your perspective? 1.5 minute max, please. Either one of you can go
goes
first.
Gopal, you can
go ahead if you want to. Yeah, sure, go ahead.
Okay. So yeah, and what excites me and where I think things are going to happen means I pointed it out earlier. One is around the large vision models. Second is people are trying to wrap their brains, some of the top scientists, around what are the similarities in the way the processing of information happens in animals versus humans versus. So how does an octopus also does some kind of logic or reasoning? A dog does it, a parrot does it, a human does it. What are the similarities there, and how we can harness that? So something might emerge out of that. One thing which I am personally very passionate about, and I think it may be happening, if not next year, maybe in a couple of years down the road, which is around the whole human computer interface kind of thing. So we have heard about the Neuralink, where you embed something in the brain and the computer impulses are able to make the body do something. But I am going the other way, where I'm also thinking that almost something of a distributed human computing kind of thing, where you have so much. Our brain is a computer which has got a lot of redundant capacity. It's only what 5% or 3% is used, 95% is not used. Now, if some way or form is devised where so much of, as we are all sitting here, 5% of our brain is being used, 95% is not being used. If that can be used to do something while we are doing stuff here, means it can do or build some real cool stuff kind of thing. It sounds like out of science fiction, but much of the things which we see happening today also seemed like science fiction just a few years ago. So keep your eye out on that. Some great stuff is going to happen there.
Yep, yeah. I'm reminded of the Star Trek theme, to boldly go where no one has gone before. That's great.
Right.
That.
Yeah, so I think you will see more and more of these multimodal, like what Gemini is, incorporate, different modalities, text and images and sound and everything. And then, it will be again embedded more and more, probably Microsoft Word will say, well, you just tell me what kind of letter you want to write, who you want to address it to, and then boom, it'll write the letter for you. Or email, and you'll see more and more of those tools, productivity tools. My guess is that definitely on the industries that depend on the generative side, like video game industry, where you have to come up with new characters and new plot lines, and those will be heavily impacted by all these tools. On the business side, I think still the business case will still be hard to make, where you can put it in front of a customer without something being vetted by a human. the chances of mistakes and chances of, they tried the experiment with Bing AI, and then they had to limit it, and it's still not, I think the Bing chat is now there, but it's still limited rollout. And I'm not sure if those problems can be solved unless the different technologies used. So what I would say is that just like great technology, Gen AI certainly has huge impact, amazing stuff. But just like 10 years ago, there was this huge excitement about autonomous vehicles that, we won't be driving ourselves in 10 years. 10 years from now, generative AI will be the similar manner. There will be applications, but, it will not, take us to heaven or
to
deliver us, essentially.
But take over
But
us.
there'll certainly be applications. So there'll be some disappointment. I would say, wait another 7-8 years, because the expectations are raised very high and then those are not met. And I think there is some amount of hype as well. So right now, I guess as Gartner says, right, in the hype cycle, but certainly there are applications, and it's an amazing technology, where it can be, whenever you can use it. So.
Right. Deepak, Gopal, I think you have both given some great perspective of where we are headed. I would just like to add one thing to it before I close this section. Bill Gates has mentioned that over time, where he sees Gen AI going, that it will actually become like our parallel avatar. It'll become like our personal assistant. I personally find today, I'm already looking at ChatGPT as my personal assistant.
Sure.
In fact, it is better than the personal assistant that I used to have because I rely on it. It is very good at it. I can give it instructions and I can get quality of work with less attitude and much more prompt response. So
absolutely,
I see that evolution is going to get better and better. And the more it learns about you, it will get into anticipatory type of things as well, where it will say, oh, this time of the year, you typically go on vacation. So it'll automatically go out there and navigate the web and figure out, okay, here are a few places that you haven't been to and they're part of your bucket list. And without you even thinking. And now, Deepak, that is that 95% of your brain, right? Where it is now has learned your interests and habits, etc. And it's out there doing things for you without you prompting it. So
awesome.
anyway, I just wanted to throw that 2 cents in. But
absolutely. I mean, as a personal assistant, yes, that's a great application. The only downside will be that OpenAI will figure out all your preferences, and at the right time, you will get ads for, vacation rentals and those kind of things, and discounted airline tickets when you're ready to go to vacation. That's the only downside. But yeah, absolutely. I think, that's a very good application. It becomes your personal assistant and keeps reminding you of things.
No, that's great. That's great. I want to thank you very much. There are a few more questions, but again, we are running short of time. I have a feeling that in the first quarter of next year, we will do another deep dive on this same topic. And I would love to have you guys back on. And thank you again for joining us.
You're welcome.
And big hand to you. Appreciate it. Thank you indeed. So now, ladies and gentlemen, we are going to talk about taxes. It's year end. It is December. And we are excited because a good friend of ours and a tax expert, Gangaraju Hanumaya, he's on this call as well. And a little bit about him, I think, again, just like I mentioned about Gopal and Deepak, please go and check out on LinkedIn and you will learn about them and their background. And they all have very rich background. In regards to Gangaraju, I'll just simply say that he was admitted to practice before the IRS and currently is the CEO and founder of Right Tax Mate, and an amazing organization, very forward-thinking, forward-looking. And today he's going to cover things about the latest updates from IRS, great opportunities for everyone who has vehicles that they have purchased here in Texas, especially electric vehicles. There are things that he'll tell you where you can save a lot of money through tax credits. He'll talk about the tax energy bill, FBAR, those of us from India, and FATCA compliance, etc. So I realize that we are running a little bit short of time, but without further delay, I'm going to turn it over to Raghvendra who is part of Right TaxMate, and Gangaraju to take it over. And maybe there are a few slides that you want to share with us, Gangaraju.
Yes, Raj. Thank you, Raj and Anna, for organizing this webinar. I hope am I audible? All okay?
Yes, yes, yes.
Yes.
Okay. Okay, great. So thank you again for organizing this webinar, and also thank you, Deepak and Gopal, for sharing an interesting and the latest information, enlightening us, sharing your thoughts on how AI impact a day-to-day life for everybody's life. And with that, I don't know how much time we have. This webinar is designed for 1 hour. And we are planning for another webinar, a detailed webinar Saturday. If anybody wants to know more about all this topic, I request them to contact us, tracks@righttaxmate.com. So we will cover in greater details.
That's a great. What I wanted to do, Gangaraju, is that so that you have so much wealth of knowledge to share in regards to tax. So can I ask Raghavendra to put the link to the Saturday deep dive that you are doing on tax in the,
yes,
so people can do that, and then you can do more of a trailer of what all we can touch. We have next 20 minutes. We can go on this.
Sure. Let me directly share the information. Today, I will try to, every second is important. We don't want to hold everybody much longer period. So I want to share about some of the instructions given by IRS on choosing the right tax return preparer. So IRS, as this is a snapshot of IRS website. I have only highlighted some of the points. Every word is directly coming from the IRS website. IRS advise that don't fall for a refund. Rather, you should focus on preparing and submitting an accurate tax return. And also IRS educate the taxpayer on anybody who are charging the preparation fee based on the refund. You should not encourage them. So you should not go with them, somebody who charge the fee based on the refund. It is not legally correct. So, and also somebody who are a good tax return preparer, they use their PTIN, paid preparer identification number, who signs the tax return and provide a copy of the tax return when you asked or whenever it is required. Also, they are available round the year to answer any of your tax related questions, and will never ask to sign a blank form, or the tax return preparer will not ask or you will not sign a blank form, and you will keep your records. You will ask question while filing the return. They don't just prepare the return the way you have given. They ask a question. They ask you to provide the receipts. Even though a tax return preparer responsibility is to prepare the return based on the information you provide, but a good tax return preparer asks relevant questions, and they ensure that we are filing the accurate tax return. And also they will have a good history, background, and also they have a credential. The reason I'm bringing it up here, because some of the tax tips you may be able to find it, but finding a good tax return preparer and knowing their credential is very important, so that you can choose a right tax return preparer. And I can tell you that, I can assure you that we are meeting all these points. Right TaxMate is fulfilling all the guidelines or a requirement by IRS, and we have been serving our client keeping all these points in mind. Coming back to our credentials, a little bit about our firm. We have 75 professionals who are qualified, chartered accountant, EAs, and the consultant who are working on bookkeeping, payroll, and tax services. We do have our physical office in Houston, Dallas, that is in Irving, Chicago, and Seattle is the new area that we are exploring, and this office will be up and running from January 1st of 2024. When it comes to technology, we are inspired by E&Y, Deloitte. I used to work for E&Y. We do follow the kind of technology E&Y following. So in this way, you have the peace of mind in sharing your information with us. We have about 3,000 plus clients, individual and business tax returns. We do provide our clients on bookkeeping and accounting services, and we have 100 plus auditing and other assurance services. Our vision is to be the trusted partner in tax, bookkeeping, payroll, and we want to add value in every work we do. We have clients in every industry, technology, staffing, financial planning, real estate, digital marketing. So please do contact us. We will take care of your needs, and we be your trusted partner in filing your tax returns. So coming to the latest update from IRS, the interest rate when there is a balance due of your tax return, or when there is an overpayment. If there is an overpayment, IRS gives you a interest rate on the refund. If delayed by the IRS, that is after the filing due date, April 15th, if you have filed the return, you do get an interest on the refund. You must have noticed whenever you receive a refund, the interest rate on the refund is 8%. Similarly, if you are not paid taxes, if you need to pay late for any reason, you may need to pay the the interest on the balance due. The rate of interest for the fourth quarter of 2023 and the first quarter of 2024 remain 8%, and for corporate it's 7%. Another update is IRS elects recently Rajiv Gopal as a new Chief Information Officer. He is focusing mainly on modernizing the IRS system and also increasing the enforcement. So one of the initiatives they have taken is creating a good experience for the taxpayer. Now the waiting time for the taxpayer is significantly reduced. You can get connected to IRS within a couple of minutes. And also, on the other side, the enforcement has been increased. IRS officially communicated that the high income earner, so especially anybody who makes more than 400K of income, may get the chances of audit for them will be high. It doesn't mean that others are not getting audited. So, you may get audited, but the people who earn, the taxpayer who earn more than 400K will have a higher chance of an audit. Another update is IRS is sending a lot of information to the taxpayer, having them to get ready for the next year tax return. We are already end of the year, 2023 tax return to be filed very soon. If you want to update your records, you want to update your mailing address, you bought a home or you moved to another home, or you need to apply for ITIN for your kids or for your parents, this is the time for you to think, keep and organize all your document. And also, if you have not paid enough taxes, you need to pay estimated taxes, you can contact us. We will help you to prepare a preview return in advance and suggest you on taking care of any tax planning strategies as well as paying with estimated taxes. Another communication IRS keep on sharing with everybody is especially for the green card and immigrations. Everybody thinks that only US citizen required to file FBAR or FATCA or international compliance. That is a misunderstanding. Even if you are a visa holder, you have an L1 visa or H1 visa, and you meet the residency requirement, you do have certain international compliance requirement, that is FBAR and FATCA. So you need to be compliant with all the IRS guidelines when you are a resident of United States. Another update, the latest update is, so 401k limits have been increased to 23K for the year 2024, that is next year. For 2023, it is 22,500. If you are not maximized your 401k, this is the time to contact your employer to maximize the 401k contribution so that you pay less tax, your taxable income will reduce. Same way, traditional IRA limits also has been increased to 7,000 for 2024. HSA limits has been increased. So now it is 8,300 for 2024. That few dates to remember for individuals, April 15th, if you have a business or a pass-through entity, LLC, S corporation, that is 15th March 2024. For corporates, FBAR and FATCA, again, that falls same as individuals. I don't know, Raj, if we have more time, I can continue the topic, or I will reserve, for, I don't want to hold everybody's after that time. So if there is a time, I can continue. Otherwise, we can continue tomorrow's in the Saturday.
Let us talk about, maybe this is the time. Is there a way we can open it up if people who want to stick around and ask you questions,
Sure.
They can ask you questions. So I'm not sure, Anna, if as a host, if you can just open it up and unmute all and let them go at it. So that way we are not abruptly closing today's session. Because there may be people who may be interested in asking more
Sure.
Okay. So while we are waiting, I do have a question. Talk a little bit about gift taxes this year. So what is the gift limit, number one? And number two, what is the lifetime gift limit? And number three, what do you envision the lifetime gift limit over the next few years?
Sure. So gift is always a post-tax for now. Gift, it happens in two ways, right? As a recipient or when you're giving the gift as a grantor. So whenever you give gift, if that amount is more than $15,000, I think $15,000, if I assume currently for the year 2023, for 2024, it has been adjusted for inflation. So if the amount is more than $15,000, you may need to declare to IRS. It doesn't mean that you need to pay tax. Everybody have their own lifetime limits for the gift. Currently, the lifetime limit for an individual is about between 11 million to 12 million. You can transfer your all your assets to the next generation up to 12 million for now currently. This, as part of TCJA, this limit has been doubled. But after 2025, the gift limits will be rolled back to the previous limits. That comes to around 6 million after 2025. So if anybody wants to gift, this is the time. If the high net worth individuals wants to gift to their next generation, so this is the time to take advantage of the higher lifetime limits, so that you don't need to pay tax on the gift you do more than that limit.
That is both the giving side and the receiving side. Neither has to pay taxes.
No, it's always gift in the US. The giving side need to keep track of the gift, but as a recipient, there is no limit. A recipient can accept gift as much as he want. He is not required to pay any taxes as a recipient.
But I mean, my point is, as long as it is within the gift limit, there is no tax for either party.
Sure, yes, you're right. And one more related topic. Whereas if you are receiving a gift from an international source, let's say your parents from India want to gift. So as a recipient, you don't need to pay any taxes. But one thing you need to remember, if the total value of the gift is more than 100K in the calendar year, January to December, if the total value you received as a gift more than 100K, you need to declare to IRS. You need to inform IRS that you don't pay taxes, but you need to declare IRS that the value of the gift is more than $100,000, and you need to inform the source of the gift, who has gifted you. Their information has to be declared to IRS, but you don't pay taxes. And this 100K will not impact your lifetime gift limits.
Got it. Makes sense. Excellent. Anybody has any questions for Gangaraju?
I believe the settings have been made such that people can unmute themselves. But if you're not able to, please raise your hand or something, and I'll try and see if I can do it.
There were other questions about how AI impact right taxment, how it is different from right taxment. Raj, I saw some questions in the chat. Would you like to answer?
I think, go ahead. If you want to answer any of those questions, please.
Yeah, I saw those questions, but I'm not sure what are those questions.
Gangaraju, there's also one that says, if someone wants to move back to India permanently, how can they move their 401k balance to India with least financial impact?
Yeah, that's something required some kind of planning, because it depends on your taxation, depends on your residential status. If you are a citizen, certain set of rules applies. If you are a visa holder, you want to terminate your residency in US and becoming a non-resident, there will be different set of rules applies. Depends on your resident status or immigration status. I can answer the questions. If you can send an email to tax@righttaxment.com, we can suggest you. Depends on the amount of 401k, we can suggest you best option to minimize the tax liability.
So I guess here's one thing I would do. It's getting late. For the benefit of all the listeners, I have always struggled finding a good tax planner, tax preparer, tax advisor, until I ran into Gangaraj. And it was one of these webinars. I heard him. He's very knowledgeable, very sincere. And if I'm not mistaken, several of you are on this webinar are already his client. So the intent today's session is not necessarily to promote his business. It is really WeGyan knowledge sharing. But wanted to also say, in the spirit of sharing, one thing that Gangaraju will do is that he will be happy to give you a free discussion, free session, to just, if you want to have a specific question, don't want to discuss it in open, just reach out to him, and he will arrange for talking to you, spend the needed time, and then figure out if there is a ongoing relationship, or you get your question answered and you move on. So that's one thing that you could do. Second thing I wanted to also share with you, that this organization is very proactive. One of the things that I admire about them is that, I dread taxes. I hate it. Okay. But these guys will subtly remind me that, okay, Raj, it's time to do some scenario planning, right? And very comfortable way, we will pull all the information from IRS. You don't need to do all that, but let us present to you that if you don't do anything, this is what is your tax exposure. And here are a few things that you could do that can reduce your tax exposure. So they will do this scenario planning that no tax advisor has ever done for me. So I just wanted to let you know that it is a wonderful service that they offer. So not a commercial for them, but we admire that about this organization.
Yeah, definitely a testimonial.
Yes.
Thank you.
So with that, unless there is any burning question, I want to say thank you to everybody. Almost everyone who has signed in has stayed on. We will continue with these WeGyan sessions. As you know, the word WeGyan is WEGYAN. WeGyan means science, and the way we are playing with the word, it means sharing of knowledge, learning together. So we'll continue with these sessions. We don't know whether we'll do it monthly, quarterly, but one of those two things we will do. So until next year, folks, we wish you a wonderful holidays. There will be a email sent to you asking for feedback on today's sessions, plus input into what other topics that you may be interested in. We'll continue with this AI. We only scratch the surface. We'll bring you more additional knowledge, experts, etc., and along with Gopal and Deepak, and have a little bit more time now to do a deep dive into where this technology is headed. There were other questions also that we were not able to get to. For example, what are some good websites that people can go to learn about AI? Gopal, you are still on, so I just thought, is there something that comes to mind right off the bat, like one or two websites that you may recommend? Oh, Gopal, you are on mute.
Yeah. I mean, I would say that if you really want to deep dive, then, maybe taking a class on Coursera or something might be the best option, really.
Mm-hmm.
For just, for layman knowledge, I'll have to look up,
So
what.
I can
Sure, go ahead.
add
Yeah,
something.
please,
Yeah.
Deepak,
So on Coursera.org, there's this Andrew Ng, Andrew Ng,
yeah.
of deeplearning.ai. He's got a very nice free course. So generative AI for everyone, generative AI for business, and there are others. So there are many. Professor Gupta was right. I mean, there are many other free courses here. But David, this Andrew Ng's style is very, very nice, a very low-key style, and he explains it very nicely. And he's got very nice slides and all, so that could be interesting.
About nice slides, let me let everybody in on a secret. All you have to do is go to LinkedIn, search for Deepak Seth, like his last post, and download a 56-slide latest and greatest presentation on Gen AI. So I just want everybody to know that that's a very nice deck that you put together, Deepak. So anybody's interested in there, just go over to LinkedIn, search his name, and look for the post that he has put. If I'm not mistaken, that's the last post. Am I right?
I post very frequently, so
okay.
You'll have to look for it.
Yeah, or means other thing could be also subscribe to the newsletter. You see the name flashing behind my head. It says 783 subscribers, but now it's around 1500. So it's Deepak AI demystified. So
Nice.
you can
Wonderful.
feel free to subscribe to that.
Great. With that, again, I will thank our speakers. I also want to particularly call out Anna. Without her, I would be lost in all aspects, of my personal life, as well as in today's session. I did not know who is going to drive it. And she has been meticulous in planning everything. And also she talked about Hunger Mitao. So if you want to learn more about it, please reach out to us. The website is very easy, hungermitao.org. If you want to drop us an email, usa@hungermitao.org. And let's move mountain, folks. The AI is there to empower us, not to replace us, not to threaten us. So let's use it for the betterment of humanity. So with that, signing off. Thank you, everyone.
But thanks, Raj, for putting this together. Really appreciate it.
Yes, indeed. Thanks for organizing. Yes,
Thank
awesome.
you.
Okay, well,
Yeah,
nice
thank
meeting
you.
you all.
See you all.
Bye.
Bye-bye.
Good night.